Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's time. It's time. Welcome to Cosmic Comic Stories. I'm Tom Tormey, and my special guest is an actor, filmmaker, and professional voice actor. And you may be one of the hundreds of thousands of followers of my guest across all different forms of social media. When I told people that I was interviewing him tonight and I showed them some of his clips, they were like, oh, my God, yes, I love him. I love him. And as do I. I've been following him for years now, and it's my pleasure to welcome Isaak Wells to Cosmic Comic Stories. Isaak, thanks for joining me tonight, brother.
Thank you so much. It's really cool to be here.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I mean, you are so funny, charming, and talented. I've been following your account for years, and I just dig it, man. And I'm glad to see that hundreds of thousands of people are enjoying it too. It's great to see how you have spanned across, like, I mean, you're just jumping ahead a little bit, because a lot of people may know Isaak Wells as Bad Advice Skeletor. And if you're an 80s kid like I am, you know Skeletor, and you love Skeletor because he's so wickedly evil. And you have given him new life as Bad Advice Skeletor, and it's really just hysterical. And when I always tell you, this is how nerdy I am. One time I was at a staff meeting. I was a teacher for so many years, and I was writing down notes, and everyone started to laugh in the room. And I just randomly let out the loudest Skeletor laugh I could, and went right back to work. And people looking around the room, and I just hit him with the evil laugh. And Skeletor's a hit. Can't go wrong. So, just to watch your success over the last few years is just truly amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
it's really great that all these people have been really enjoying it, and I'm 100% surprised and 1,000% happy that people have found it enjoyable. And
you are, you're well known across social media. Have you been going in person to any of these events? Have people either recognized you by face or by voice as you go to conventions or events of any kind?
Yeah, a little of both. Mostly the voice thing. But when I go to a convention, it's usually because they knew they wanted Skeletor, the disturbing Skeletor guy.
I said Bad Advice. Disturbing Facts Skeletor.
Yeah, that's kind of what I just dubbed him.
It's a great name. They are disturbing.
Yeah, and it's just there is a lot of people who recognize who I am, and I've had people come up in the last I'd say 8-9 months, especially when I'm at conventions, and just be like, I'm a huge fan of your stuff. I watch the videos every day. Some people use them to escape a little bit, get a little laugh in the middle of the day. I'm just very taken back, and also extremely happy that they are liking it, because I really like making it, and I'm just happy that they recognize it.
No, I mean, you not only is it the voice over work that you're doing on this Disturbing Facts Skeletor, fantastic. The animation is spot on. Is that something that you are creating yourself?
Yeah, I took I was using old clips when I first started,
right?
And I didn't want to step on anybody's toes with anybody who owns the property. So I was.
You don't want Filmation kicking down your door, huh?
Yeah, Filmation or anybody who owns the property. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna make a parody version of it. So I'm gonna animate my own Skeletor version, but based on the old style of art. And so I looked at the Skeletor, and I was like, let me just try to copy as much as I can, like as best as I can. I'm no artist or animator or anything. I just did like the best I could to get his jaw moving up and down, and then I edited it to kind of go with the words that I'm saying, because his jaw is very, it's easy to animate a jaw with words.
Right.
Just teeth. There's no lip movement, there's no vowels, there's nothing like that. So I did that myself, so I could kind of like, I could take the old clips and like parody them while making them HD, sort of, but I did it by hand. I didn't want to like, AI it or anything like that. I wanted to just do it by hand and try to see if I could match the same art style.
Right.
And it's funny because like a month or two ago at C2E2, I met the animator of Skeletor, the original animator of the Age of Skeletor. And
Cook? Was it Cook?
Yeah, he really liked I was like, yeah, I hope you're not mad at me doing that. And he was just like, hey man, I'm just glad that people are liking it. I just did the animation, and he was just like, it's really cool that you did that. And I was like, yeah, I'm trying to go with originally what I saw, in terms of what you were doing.
Right.
And I told him, I was like, I'm no artist like you, but it was my attempt. And he seemed very appreciative of it, and he was genuinely like, that's really cool. So
I mean,
that was a big thing.
I would imagine that he probably liked it in the same way like that Jim Davis likes the Garfield minus Garfield skits, where you've taken the art form and just kind of given it a new life, and it's reaching an audience that I can't imagine that the original cartoon would be able to reach today. So I can imagine how he felt about it.
Well, I think any artist is really happy when somebody does something inspired by what they did. I do know that people sometimes do their own Skeletor interpretations, like mine, and I'm always finding that flattering because imitation is the best form of flattery, or that's the old saying, and I'm always glad about that. But it's the same way I inspired my Skeletor voice from Alan Oppenheimer. I was just trying to do him.
He's the OG. He's the best. He's good. I mean, you have it spot on. That's it sounds very much like him, but with a unique take on it. Just that comical. I mean, there was some comedic elements to Skeletor in the original cartoon, and you have just amped those up, and it really does resonate. It's a amazing job.
I think it's funny because I wanted to keep Skeletor's kind of spirit going, and I saw some of the Skeletor memes that had come out years and years ago, and I was like, I could like do this visually for people. I was just trying to do his voice because I really wanted a high-pitched style voice like that, and Skeletor was always that, like without that voice, he probably wouldn't have been as big. If it was just somewhat deep, like, like, I'm gonna get you, He-Man, like that's not. It was the high-pitched voice that really, like, I'm gonna get you, He-Man. That's the thing that, like, people are like, I remember that about the character, and I was like trying to keep a spirit, and I was like, basically, if you looked out how Skeletor's character was in the 80s, in 2020s he would be an internet troll. And so I was like, yeah, of course, if he had this reach, he would do this, because he would give you facts and disturbing information that you don't necessarily want to think about, or give it in a different way where it just kind of messes with your head.
Yeah.
And that seemed very on brand for how 80s Skeletor was.
I mean, not much of Skeletor makes sense. He's a giant, muscular, purple creature with a skeleton face and a very high-pitched voice. But I've always told people, I think that's the beauty of Masters of the Universe, or the original series, or all the characters, is that you could just throw anything at it and it sticks. And
it's a smattering of ridiculousness, I think, and that's what really his charm is, And there was like a lot of other, characters, like evil characters from other cartoons, but for some reason Skeletor really hit people in the I'm gonna remember this part of your brain, like it's that's. Of course, the creator, inspired it from a horrific, thing that happened to him. He saw a body in like a carnival ride,
right,
decayed and stuff. And it was a skull, and that's where he got Skeletor. And then Alan Oppenheimer came in and did that ridiculous, amazingly legendary voice. And I was just like, yeah, well, that's really cool. I like that.
And I don't know all my facts, so I'm just going to make this up. And then Alan Oppenheimer went out and made the atomic bomb, I believe. I'm just kidding. Just get all the facts mixed up. Just start teaching people all the wrong things.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
I do like to teach them, read facts that are true, but I really like taking information that you like might not necessarily have thought about a different way, and people are like, oh, I never thought about that way. It's really messing with me now.
Right.
Like, I didn't want to think about that, but you made me think about it,
You had posted one recently about a different way to view the weekend, and it was a clever way, like that people enjoy a certain day of the weekend versus others, and
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's a great way to look at it. I'm trying to remember it verbatim at this moment, but I just remember thinking, oh, of course I saved it so I could reference it because
Yeah, it was like he's like, the night off before a day off is more satisfying than the actual day off.
yes,
I thought, yeah, that's pretty true. Because I feel like you're way more relaxed and
oh yeah,
non-caring the day before. And
nothing beats.
I thought that resonated with the average Joe. Like the average person who works a regular job. Because I've done that too, so I know how that is.
Nothing beats shutting the alarm off the night before. You're supposed to wake up and you're like, oh nope, don't need the alarm. That's great.
And
you're absolutely
it's
right.
Great that I just get to just mess with people. I think one of my most popular posts for him, because people come up to me at conventions and say it. They're like, "Oh, that one was so funny." It was the one where he's like, "A selfie taken by an orphan is technically a family photo until we meet again," and then he just runs away. And I was like, I felt kind of bad because I didn't mean to offend anybody. I just wanted somebody to think of it in a different, messed up way.
Right.
And of course, a lot of these are to me by fans and friends and stuff like that, and posting stuff, and you find stuff like that. But I'm like, Skeletor would totally say that, and I've never claimed that I make up every single one, because I don't.
Right. Yeah.
But I do. I kind of word it and do it and decide which one Skeletor would very much say. And I don't do anything that specifically offends any group of people. I always thought that Skeletor was the kind of character who would just make fun of human beings.
Fair
because
enough.
he sees them weaker than he is. I mean, he's like this, I am the villain. That's the top villain of all, and he would view humanity as laughable. Because that's just how I got it in my head. So I never specifically make fun of any kind of thing, because I don't think that's cool.
Right.
But I just make fun of people or give the facts about something that's, something that yeah, I don't know.
You could post something like air is good, and people will find a way to make it political, get you angry, get angry about it. They always do that in the comments. Do you ever get obscure or weird kind of I say DMs or messages from people reacting to, or is it the opposite? Are you getting people just reaching out to you saying, absolutely love it, dude, great job?
Oh, it's mostly the latter. It's mostly the latter. It's mostly people loving it. I've hardly ever got messages that were negative towards it, towards the reactions of the videos.
Yeah.
Because I want Skeletor to resonate with people, hey, that's weird, I never thought of it that way, but it's funny to think of it that way, but not in an insulting way. I would never do that, because I don't think it's not fun to do that. It's not cool. So I usually get DMs that are either like, hey, I have a Skeletor fact, here's one, or yeah, that's so true, 100%, or facts, or whatever, and I'm glad to do that.
Do you take fan comments? Do you take say, oh, okay, I'll use that. Oh, fan facts, let's say, and use it for disturbing facts, Skeletor?
I've done that for a few, actually. I've done that for a few, and they were just like, hey, use this, and I think Skeletor should say this, or something like that. Even one of my friends was like, was just like, hey, you should do this one. I think his brother had thought of it, and he just sent it to me, and he was just like, you should do this one. And I was like, okay, I'll do that one. You know what I'm saying? So it's comes from everywhere. And
right.
Sometimes I'll just make up my own. I'll just be like, yeah, that's funny. I'll think of something and be like, Skeletor would totally say that.
I can picture you walking around with a notepad and pencil, just, or I guess a little old fashioned, I guess, jotting down on the phone when you come across that inspiration, right?
Yeah, I always write them down, or screen capture something that I may have seen that I'm like, this could be converted into a Skeletor meme. But I put them out there for pretty much everyone. It's just Skeletor is basically for everybody, and I
like that line. Skeletor's for everyone. I like that.
Yeah, and Skeletor is for everyone, but also hates everyone.
He's for and against at the same time.
Like he would very much be like, I believe in equality of all of you dying, or something. So it's, somebody put it somewhere, like we were live, I was live with someone talking to another voice actor, but they said it was the most wholesomely dark humor on the internet.
That's fair.
And I was like, that's cool. That means means a lot. That's fine with me.
You could get away with so much. You could say so much because it's behind a guy, like you said, who just despises all of humanity. So it's fair game. Everything's fair game.
I did actually have one that people like. I like it when people go into the comments and they start, messing with each other, arguing with each other. And I did get one. I did do one that was like, because I thought it was funny. He's like, remember, a hip hop beef is grown men writing angry poems at each other. And I did that one, and so far it's got like I think almost 3 million views. But the comment section is under it, and they're like, start, sort of, kind of going back and forth at it. And somebody messaged me a very long, eloquent message about like, hey, I didn't know if you meant it as an insult or that they're, a very, intelligent rappers are very intelligent in words and everything like that. I was like, oh yeah, I'm very much a big fan of hip hop. Right. And I think that hip hop rappers are some of the best wordsmiths in media right now, currently, and of all time, because of just the amazing talent they have to do that. So I mean everything with, like basically respectfully, of course,
Sure.
Kind of that way. And I never want to try to diss anybody, but that was just an example of me saying, okay, if you look at it a different way, you might think of it of a different way that you might not have wanted to or expected to. And that's kind of what I wanted to trigger with the people. And some of them are just, some of them are like that. And some of them like, just straight up funny that I thought would be hilarious to do. Like, the one where he's just like, more orgasms have been caused by hands than any other part of the body. And I was like, yeah, so that's true, obviously. But you didn't think of that before,
right.
Like you didn't think, oh man, that is true, or something like that. It's like kind of like coming to a realization.
That's so that actually, my son was over and I told him, I said, I'm going to be speaking to Isaak Wells tonight. And he's like, Isaak Wells? I'm like, yes, Bad Advice Skeletor, like this one. And of course, what's the first one I pull up to my 13-year-old son? The one about the orgasms being caused by hands. I'm like, oh, wait, next one. And that's the day off one. I'm like, okay, all right. Whew, dodge a bullet there. Save that.
It's some of them are for everybody and some of them are obviously for adults. But, yeah. I'd like to, to make the, everybody laugh as much as possible. And I've gotten some heartwarming messages about what my content has done for people.
Oh, that's great.
That's just amazing. Like somebody was going through rehab because he was, really bad into drugs. And he said that one of the things that really gets him by is looking forward to my videos, to watch the next one because it makes him laugh. And I was just like, yeah, see, that's the people that I would care about doing it for.
And tuning into your videos is for people like that, for people like me, it's a really healthy form of escapism, and for you as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, I never thought about all the people that would be watching it, because I didn't, because it's just a phone screen and likes and comments. A lot of that is it seems disconnected, and I didn't realize how many people, how much it was before until I started going to conventions, and it just the stuff they expressed to me. There was fan art, there was people bringing in the Skeletor pop figures for me to sign, and statues, and I was just like, that's just amazing because I'm an entertainer, and so basically my whole thing was, if I'm going to do this, I'm focusing on how I would approve it myself. Mm-hmm. Or, like, when I'm doing the lines, I'll be like, I'll say the line, I'll be here in the studio, and I'll be like, I didn't like that take. Let's do another one. I want to get the emphasis right on some word, but I'm not like actively thinking of what it'll do for other people. I'm just thinking, okay, what is the best form of me saying this line? Just like any actor or any entertainer or content, creator is just like, how would this be the best, content creators who really care about creating the things online. It's just, I'm like my own worst critic, so I'm pretty anal about getting something right. And then I put it out. And then when people comment and appreciate it, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's cool. But I'm very much into the process of creating it.
Well, I mean, I would imagine that something like Bad Advice Skeletor is cathartic for your followers, for anyone watching, for the millions of people who watch the videos. But to an extent for you, because things haven't always been easy for you in certain aspects in regards to your health. And there was an old expression, I think it was that hard times make strong men. And I definitely think you're a good example of that, because in reading about your past, and this is not something that we've discussed, but because it's entertainment. We make content. You make great, amazing content, but things haven't always been easier for you in terms of your health. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and multiple heart attacks.
Yes.
And this has, and through the entertainment, you kind of have that escapism in the same way that you were talking about the person reaching out to you, getting through rehab. Is this akin to that for you?
It's difficult to answer that. When I was born with a congenital heart defect, and there was a smattering of other things that happened because of that, and as well as that. As well as my congenital heart defect, and there were some other things that were wrong. And I think my form, when I first realized escapism for myself, was my mom went to the hospital, like, entertainment section. It was very dinky. They didn't have a lot because, at that point, people were just donating stuff they didn't want, to get, like, stuff. And so we watched very old classic movies, and then my mom brought me in like an NES because that was popular. And I used gaming as a very big version of kind of getting my mind out of the hospital. And out of a lot of the pain that I had to go through, and that I was very much constantly in. I didn't really get to leave the hospital permanently until I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
So
from birth?
Yes. I could go home on multiple occasions, but I always had to go back. Going home was like sort of like you get to look for this vacation kind of thing. And I could be there for, weeks, maybe a month or two, but then I would eventually have to go back to the hospital because something else was wrong. And this was in the 80s. So, it was very, it was a very dark time. And even though people think the 80s is modern, it was a pretty rough time for medical science. I mean, people in the late 80s didn't even use anesthesia on kids at some points because they didn't think kids had nerves.
Right. Yeah, I heard that. They didn't think children felt pain in that regard.
Yeah. And so, but, hats off to all the people who worked on me, because if it wasn't for the medical science, I wouldn't be here. And so I used the entertainment that I had at my disposal, which is movies and early video games, like first, second generation consoles, as a form of escape. I remember the first video game I played on NES, it was Little Mermaid, because they didn't have the big games. And I was like, this is incredible, So it got me out. My mom noticed it was getting me kind of like a little happier and stuff. So, during one of my operations, a really major one, you have to have willpower. You can't just give up, because that helps. If you have willpower to fight, to want to live, it does
Absolutely.
help. To help with the surgery, the healing, a lot. It's just, human willpower to want to be there. And so my mom she made a deal with me. She was just like, hey, if when you get out of this heart surgery, what do you want? Because if you get out of it and you come back, I'll get you anything you want. Not knowing anything that would happen. She was just trying to keep my spirits up. And I was like, I want you to get, I want a copy of Super Mario Brothers 3, because it had just come out. And I want Super Mario Brothers 3. When I come out, I'm looking forward to that. And I also wanted them to wear, I called them the duck slippers, but it was like the things that you put around your shoes in a hospital to keep from, and I wanted them to wear it because they looked kind of silly to me, and I always had to wear them. So I'm like, you're going to make yourself look silly, and you're going to give me a copy of Super Mario Brothers 3. And that was specifically what I remembered. And I think I wanted a Sprite. I wanted a soda. And
can't go wrong with a thirst quencher.
They promised me all of that, and that was one of my big ones when I was like was a 7 or 8 at the time, and it was that's how powerful it was to me. And to this day, I am still very much a geeky, nerdy gamer, and very much a person who loves to watch movies and TV shows because of the stories they tell, and they help you escape. Even to this day, they help everybody escape for what they're going through.
Right.
And that's why it kind of attracted to me. If I can do that for somebody else, that'd be cool.
And you said at 8 was when really you were able to kind of be free of the hospital.
For the most part.
That's right. Okay,
home.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah, I got to go home and basically try to live the adolescent life, but still I was very limited because my heart was still not in great condition. My lungs also had some problems. I had cataracts. At one point. Not to get too visceral about it, but at one point I had a sinus infection in the hospital so bad that they had to actually remove my left eye out of my head and scrape the bone from the infection out of my skull out of it, and then they had to put my eyeball back in.
Wow, that is.
And so it's I always be like, that was metal AF, but I'm always jokey about it. Like if I went through more things than most people can imagine, but if I can use it as a positive, like, hey, keep going, I'll do that. And I've been invited to hospitals, like OSF here in Illinois, to talk to children and younger kids and people about, that are going through something similar to me, and, basically try to give them a little boost,
right. Yeah. And who better to hear from than you?
Yeah, my doctor even asked. She was like, you have this condition, so would you mind coming talking to this child or 2 or 3? And I was like, sure, I don't mind. And I did, and I sat with them for a while and made them laugh and just talked about stuff. And I was like, basically, don't give up. There is a life beyond this if you really want it. And with all the medical science we have now, it's it's very possible, especially for my condition. My condition's like not a lot anymore, but I was one of the first people to ever kind of live through it. So
Isaak, I'll tell you, it is always great to be on this side and to talk to people like you and to realize that as amazing as you present online is as amazing as you are in the real world. And to hear that you give back and that you inspire others. And sure, you do that through the social media account. I mean, like I said, millions of people, hundreds of thousands of followers across all the social media, TikTok and Instagram. But to know that you're also giving back to the children, you're going to hospitals and you are being the inspiration that you are to them is truly a humbling thing to know that you are as amazing as you present. So thank you for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you so much. And you're welcome. I just didn't know how to not be that way. That's, I was like, well, I can do this, so I'm going to do this. I'm here to do it. And I guess I got a better perspective on how lucky I am to be alive. So I didn't want to waste it.
That's amazing.
So, now like I go to the gym almost every day, and I mean, I have to take a lot of pills for my heart and blood and all that stuff, but I still work out. I still go to the gym. I still go, hiking and go, physical activities and stuff like that. But if I could help somebody, I feel like you should. And why wouldn't you?
In that regard, you give back at the hospitals. You give good advice to people and bad advice through Skeletor. But if you are a professional voice actor,
yeah.
How do we go from being the nerdy Super Mario Brothers 3 loving child that you were to being the professional voice actor that you are today? How did you get into the industry?
Well, that was kind of a weird story. I started, I had a couple of friends, and we weren't very we were the typical nerds and geeks. We didn't, go out drinking. We didn't, do, any kind of drugs or anything like that. So we were just like, you know, um, we didn't have any hobbies like sports or anything like that. We were just geeks and nerds, and we would
I
always
could understand that very well.
we would just always like play a game or watch a TV show and just like make fun of it, mostly games, and do like bits off of it. And we were like, hey, that's funny. Let's do that. Let's record that on like a really crappy camcorder in the early, like the mid 2000s. And so I started making fun of different characters, and I was ended up being on screen. And the YouTube channel never got popular. It was, always below like around 1,000 subscribers. It was just something for fun we were doing. And we would always give ourselves a goal. It would be like really fun, like, oh, we'll do this and release it this day. So we're like giving ourselves our own deadlines and stuff. And that's what we needed. And so I started doing all these different characters. And I started doing Solid Snake because Metal Gear was like one of my favorite games of all time. And Solid Snake had such an interesting voice. And I always made fun of voices before anyway. Like whenever I heard a cool voice, I'd be like, ooh, that's cool. I kind of want to like do that voice. But like when Snake came around in Metal Gear Solid, I was still young. And I was like, and that game was so impactful, like the story, that Snake just kind of resonated with you. And I was like, let's make fun of him though, because that's our way of like showing love to this character, that we could just make fun of him. So I did, I practiced a lot doing the voice David Hayter did. And if you know Solid Snake, you immediately can hear this voice, like you immediately know the voice that's coming out. It was all the classic games, not the Kiefer Sutherland ones after Metal Gear Solid 4. But it was David Hayter, and he had this, it was like this raspy kind of inflection weird voice like this, hunting Metal Gear, and I did that a bunch of times for skits, and I did other voices too. And this animator, this little tiny developer, was just like, hey man, I'm doing this Flash game for this website called Newgrounds. Do you want to do the voice? It's only like 9 or 10 words. And I was like, sure, and they were like, we really like the Snake voice. Can we just like kind of do like a different alternate voice, that's kind of like a raspy military guy, and so I did that. And then that guy knew somebody who was working on another project, and then that guy knew another project, and eventually I just got onto audition lists and started doing stuff like that, and obviously joined sites and auditioned for stuff, and then that's just where it became a thing. So, and I really liked doing independent video games because I know how hard it is for them to do, and how limited resources they had. So if I could help them with really good voice acting, I could do it for really cheap or within their budget, or work with them or something for something to just give them good quality because I thought their game was cool. And that's how I got in a lot of cool VR games that I thought were pretty cool. There's like a couple like that I thought was pretty cool, like Requisition VR, which is like a VR game that's like kind of like Dead Rising, where you make your own weapons to kill zombies and stuff. And then recently I was doing some voices for this game called Gunman Contracts. And it was a guy who modded Half-Life Alyx to be like John Wick, and I played the mod and I was like, this is amazing in VR because I'm a huge VR gamer. And we reached out to each other, and he was like, hey man, do you want to help me with some voices on this? And I was like, of course I will. This is like an amazing game, and this should definitely be like a game that VR people like look to as like an example of good action VR. So that was that, and I'd done different things. Like I got to do Family Guy, Quest for Stuff, and Marvel Avengers Academy and stuff like that. So, and that was just a basic audition list, and I went at it. I didn't think I would get any of the roles, but I ended up getting like 2 characters in Family Guy and 2 characters in Marvel. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's neat.
Out of curiosity, who were you in the Marvel game?
Captain Marvel, which is not Marvel, it's Marvel.
Yes.
And Whiplash.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
So we had like, I basically watched Iron Man 2, and I was just like, oh, he's like this. Where's my board? I want my board. Like kind of thing.
Nailed it.
And I was like, let's go off that, because even though that's not like technically correct, they're probably looking for that voice.
Right.
And Captain Marvel was just like a regular younger kind of voice of mine, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't think I would get that, but they had worked with me before, and they were like, you got the audition really quick, so
That's
go for
awesome.
that.
I always tell people that when you have a passion, you pursue that passion. Like the money comes. The money comes. Don't chase the money, but follow your passion. The money will come. And hearing you talk about this is a great personification of that. That this is something that you're passionate about, and now you're getting to pursue it, and it's paying off. And that's awesome to hear.
Well, I'm really happy it is too, because I didn't set out thinking about the money. I don't think any creator does.
Right.
You just want to do this art, but to keep doing it, unfortunately, you have to get, the money is important, but that's not why you do it. You do it because you want to create, and you want to, just pursue the art that you just have a passion for. That's how I did it. I'm assuming that's what other people do it for. There's obviously hundreds of reasons, but that's why I did it, because I just wanted to entertain people.
Are there any tips or tricks that if someone was interested in getting into the voice acting game, that's something that you've learned over the years, or what to do, what not to do?
I think the best thing I did was I just worked on my voices. I literally would hear a voice and I'd be like, that's cool. I want to be able to do that. And to keep doing it, to keep practicing is probably the biggest advice I can give somebody, is just keep doing it. Keep practicing it. Find a phrase that you want to do if you want to do voices, and just kind of do that. And also, the best voice actors are really good actors. So you have to go to take some courses or some workshops, and do that kind of stuff, because you want your brand, like your talent to show. And I didn't really even know how big it was or how good I was, because I never looked at myself as like, oh, I want to be better than somebody. I looked at myself as like, how many things can I do that would help me do other projects. Like when I first met Carlos Alazraqui, I was like, and this was not even that long ago. This was like this year. And I was freaking out like a fanboy, because one of my favorite shows of all time was Rocko's Modern Life, and he's Rocco. And I was like, oh my God. I'm having a freak out moment. I was there as a guest. I'm like there next to him signing autographs, but I'm still very much a fanboy of the stuff. And, he played in Reno 911. He was the Taco Bell dog. He was Rocco in Rocko's Modern Life. He's the voice in Rock, Paper, Scissors that's going on right now. And he was Mr. Crocker in Fairly Odd Parents. And I was like freaking out. But like when we were on a podcast together during one of the interviews, he was just like, man, you've got some amazing range. You're going from high to pit. I can't do that. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Getting complimented by someone you admire, that's got to be a good feeling.
It's one of those weird things where you don't want to think I'm better than you, and there is no better. To me, it's just different. But to get a compliment like that just meant so much to me. It was so much that I was shocked. I was like stunned. I didn't even know how to take it. I could just sit there and I was like, thanks.
I need a moment to collect myself. Hold on.
And I don't think, a lot of people, and I didn't realize it, how many people, those little moments with those people that really connected with them or brought them entertainment really meant to them. Like, I don't think a lot of people realized, or I don't think, I didn't realize how many people connected with Skeletor. But I also have to, I was like, okay, I get that, because when I meet somebody that really connected with me, I'm like, someone like emotionally attached, to who you are as a person. Almost, you're a part of my personality.
I mean, people. Right? I can imagine that. I mean, I can imagine how many people are resonating with what you're putting out, and how many people are connecting with that as well on a personal level. So I could see the inverse happening.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was like to be on the other side of that, and I still, at some very much point, don't, because I'm very much a fan. I'm not really like what I would say like, oh, I never saw myself as like this big, person or larger than life person. I just wanted to do art, and I always was I'm still fanboying about people I meet. I'll go to a convention and more people will like come to me about the Skeletor things and some other people, and I'll be like, oh my God, that, you know, what you did is so cool, you know, like, and I don't want to, I feel like I'm cringing myself because I'll be like, oh my God, it's so great, you know, like every other person. Like when I met, it's really hard to keep your cool. Was super hard to keep my cool when I got to have a conversation with Kevin Smith, because I was like, it's Kevin Smith, you know, like he did so much awesome stuff, and I was just like, you know, where you're like nervous, but you want to talk to him about something. So we talked about our similar heart problems and stuff like that. He had a heart attack, and was telling him that I went through a bunch, and you know, talking about just different projects and stuff. And I was like, hey, you know, the disturbing fact Skeletor, and it kind of clicked in his head. He was like, that's you. You're the one who does that. And I was like, yeah, that's me. I was like, so wait a minute, you've seen it. That's if you
how cool is that?
I was like, wow, you know,
yeah.
That's I didn't even know what to say after that. I was still very much stunned by that.
That's got to be quite, just like a humbling thing. Like, oh my God, I can't believe Kevin Smith is taking my work. That's great.
Yeah, like that means that, like, you know, in your head you have to do the calculations that he was on his phone and that came up and he watched it and he heard my voice and he.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was, you know, and you know, it was very humbling.
And are there any? I mean, you've mentioned so many great, talented people, from everyone from Alan Oppenheimer to Kevin Smith. But are there any people out there that, as you are now working and getting to interact and meet, is there someone who's like on your, oh man, I would love to work with this person in the voice acting game?
I would think, you know, some of my favorites would have been like, you know, Rob Paulson and Jim Cummings, and I would love to do something more directly with like Steve Blum. You know, it's really hard to say mine. Those are just ones that came to my head, but there's like
all good choices,
dozens of ones,
right,
that I would just like freak out to be with, because, like I said, I'm more of a fan than I am, you know, on the other side of whatever you want to call it. But
I would love to just be with Rob Paulson and get him to say "narf." Just to,
yeah, because like, you know, I watched his like his video podcast, you know, like Talking Tunes, and I was like, it would be cool to be on that,
yeah,
and just be Skeletor while he does a different like does a different character. But you know, like I've said many times, I'm not the official voice actor for Skeletor. I'm just the internet Skeletor, and I know I've had hundreds of messages that are just like, you should be a Skeletor in some cartoon series.
Yes. I agree.
And like I said, 1,000,000%, I would 100% leap at that immediately. It would not even be a thought. I'd be like, yeah, of course I will. Because if the fans want it enough, then they might reach out to me and do it. And if, you know, I've been doing this content for free for them for you know, for years, and I love doing it. I'll still do it until they stop me. But if they actually had me do anything in any official capacity, I would freak and immediately do it, because then I would be like, I'm official, but I'm like the unofficial patch to a game.
This it would be. Remember Judas Priest, where I think Rob Halford left the band and they brought in someone who had been Judas Priest cover band for singing, and he just became the singer. That would be like the voiceover equivalent of that, where you would get to go from being a voice actor who did the Skeletor voice because you were passionate about it, and then you got to be the Skeletor voice. So I'm definitely pulling for you. That'd be like a true, like a real, like an underdog story. That would be spectacular. I would
love for them. You know, I think it would take the fans, you know, to do like an online.
Oh, like, I swear to God, that was just my first thought too. The poll, not the polls. Gosh, the petitions. I forget what they're called. Where people make their own petitions,
like change.org petitions.
Change.org, yeah, and they get millions of signatures. I'm sure. I think that's my next call to action after this.
I had some, you know, there were some creators and stuff that had ideas for pitching different ideas about Skeletor, like what he could do, or with my voice, or some funny parody version of itself, like Thundercats Roar, but like a little bit, different and more towards like the 80s version. And, I was like, yeah, I would definitely, even if it was a goofy, kind of making fun of itself show, I would still do that, and there's like 4 or 5 voice actors for Skeletor. And I think the most known one besides Alan Oppenheimer is Mark Hamill for the.
Yeah, he just started doing he just started doing Revelations, Masters of the Universe Revelations.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I get that because Mark Hamill, it's a name, and he's been in the game for years, and it's a more adult version going at it. So I was like, I get why they go after a little darker tone, like somebody like Mark Hamill. Mm-hmm. I'm still very much more of a fan of Alan Oppenheimer because that's just what started it. That he created that,
right?
So for the more darker Masters series, yeah, I get Mark Hamill. But if there was something goofy or you wanted a little lighthearted that could maybe kind of go with everything, almost like in a robot chicken comedy vein, where it just makes fun of itself, I would 100% be behind that. Or anything in any official capacity, I would very much talk to whoever is representing that and considering me to come on. I would totally do that.
I know what I'm doing as soon as I get off. Going to change.org and making a petition to get Isaak Wells as the official voice of Skeletor.
I would share that because I was like, if that could do that, I would 100% do that because they've given that character has given me a lot, so I would love to give that character my interpretation of that character back to them in the official sense. And it's weird how I've introduced Skeletor to people who didn't even watch Masters. I've had younger, Gen Alphas and Gen Zs or whatever, or not, like mostly Gen Z, that never watched Masters, but they know who this, Skeletor guy is. And I was like, that's cool. And I've even had people come up being like, that's so cool that you just like reinvented Skeletor for this new generation and younger generations. And I didn't think about doing that. I was just doing something I thought would be a funny bit. But then it ended up meaning like it meant something to people, and I was super happy about that. I was like, "Wow!"
You're introducing children to a whole new level of evil.
Yeah, to a whole, and it's internet trolling, so of course that's going to be a thing, and it's the best kind of internet trolling. Let's all get let's all get disturbing facts from this guy who basically is powerful and all evil, and. Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite voices to do. I have other favorite voices I can do, but Skeletor is one of my favorite.
Sorry. In terms of giving back, I was wondering if you had a few moments to play a quick game with me with this one.
Sure.
And what I did is I took actual Dear Abby questions that people had asked Dear Abby. But we're going to change it to Dear Skeletor. And we're going to see what advice Skeletor would offer these people. These are real situations that people were having. So these are real situations that people wrote to her. And I'm going to ask you, and maybe Skeletor could give me his best advice.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Number 1. We're going to go with 3. Dear Skeletor, my mother-in-law wraps up trash and gives it as gifts. Should I confront her about this?
Thank you for the question. I say, take the bundles of trash, make a furious weapon out of it, fix it, confront her by blasting her away with her own mistakes.
Fantastic advice, Skeletor. Awesome. How about this? Dear Skeletor, I'm going to meet my girlfriend's brother who is just getting out of prison. Should I be scared?
It is understandable for a weak mortal such as yourself to be scared. However, meet him and take him down, because like the prison that he is in, you must be the bigger person and destroy him.
Good advice, Skeletor. Good advice. Take him down. Take him down. And last one. Dear Skeletor, my wife won't stop listening to vegan podcasts. How do I get her to stop?
This will be a deliciously evil one. Emphasis on delicious. While she's listening to the vegan podcast, break out a portable grill right in front of her. Take out the biggest tomahawk steak you can, cook it and eat it right in front of her. So raw that it's considered blue. Show her the deliciousness and evilness of murder.
Isaak, my friend, you are amazing. And you a few times you had mentioned going to cons, and are there any cons coming up for you? Is there anything that we need to know that where we could find you? Any projects that we're going to be able to see you in?
Well, for conventions, I've got a couple lined up. I got I think Planet Funk Kong in Indiana, Midwest Toy and Comic Fest in Illinois, and Effing Con is also in Illinois. I'm actually reaching out to more. If anybody wants me to be on one, you can message me or message the convention and say you should invite this guy because we'd like to meet him, and I'm completely open with that.
We should all do that.
And as far as like projects I'm working on, I am working on a live action superhero show that my filmmaker friends and I are doing. It's going to be like an online social series at first that we hope to eventually get picked up for a streaming network or something. And I get to play a character that I physically get to be live action. I've got a suit on and everything. It's really cool. And it's called Kickback Heroes, and you can find all the social media online. We'll be posting stuff and skits and stuff like that from the characters at some point soon, so I think that's pretty cool. I'm still working on voicing more video games, and I think a couple of cartoons. I can't say a lot about them because just NDAs and such, but yeah.
And as soon as I hear NDA, I just want to know more. It's like it's like the forbidden closet. Oh, he's got an NDA, but damn, I want to know.
Yeah, it's you desperately want to tell people, but you have to be professional. It's the surprise. It's everything that that they want to just come out and tell everybody. You don't want to spoil it. No spoilers. But anything like that is I'm always going to be posting to my social media. So if you follow me, then you'll know exactly the projects. And if you want to see any of the games, I'll be starting to post little clips of me voicing in different games and such like that too. But anything that comes out from me, it's going to mostly my Instagram and Facebook.
And that's at Isaak Wells.
Yes, just my name. I'm boring. I just went with my name.
You nailed it. It's perfect. It's easy to remember. And not only that though, and correct me if I'm wrong. What if any of your fans, any of the hundreds of thousands of people, the millions of people who are watching your videos, what if they are interested in having Skeletor say a message directly to someone in their family? Is there some way?
I do Cameo. Skeletor is on Cameo. Every once in a while, I activate the Cameo to do custom stuff for people. It's not on all the time, but I do put it on as frequently as I can in between projects. And I've got some amazing requests. Basically, you pay Skeletor to make fun of your friends and family, and
he would probably hate them. Skeletor probably would hate all of my friends and family, so that's appropriate.
Yeah, but it's all in good fun, and he also, as much as how evil and he kind of pokes fun at you, I always still want to put some kind of message of inspiration in there for, as best as Skeletor can possibly do. That's
awesome. Isaak, brother, my friend, thank you for your time. Thanks for hanging out with me. I really, not only am I in awe of your talent, I'm inspired by your story, and I love how much you're giving back to everybody. And on behalf of the entire nerd community, it's great to see one of us doing well. And thank you for everything you're doing. And I think, and if it's okay, because I think Skeletor always has this nice, sweet little thing he says after he gives bad advice. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind ending our show with those, how many,
4 words.
Those 4, I had to count. I had to count on my fingers. And those 4 magic words that Skeletor hits us with as he runs into the abyss, runs into the Snake Mountain. And if you wouldn't mind hitting us with this and taking us off.
Sure. Yeah, I was happy to be on from me, Isaak, and from Skeletor.
Until we meet again!